Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. It is Sunday, October 24th, 2021, the morning after Shakur Stevenson's demolition of Jamel Herring. Pay close attention to Stevenson. This is Stevenson's second weight division title, right? In other words, Stevenson, as young as he is, already has titles in two different weight classes. Let me also say, too, before I get into the fight, and the fight was masterful. It's a hand speed, straight left fest. But before I get into the fight, let me just say that I want young fighters, especially young gifted fighters with hand speed, who some nights are just going to be too fast for a grizzled veteran, right, who's a gamer, but who just doesn't have the hand speed. The way Stevenson comported himself after the fight was as masterful as he did during the fight. I want young fighters to look at the film of Stevenson's post-fight interview, right, where he compliments Herring. Right? There was a lot said before the fight. At one point, Herring showed up with his belt, and Stevenson tried to take the belt from him. But after the fight, Stevenson wanted you to know that he had respect for Herring, right? That this was really strictly about being competitive and emotional before a fight, right? This is the young guy looking at the vet. And understand, Herring, I believe, is a former Marine, right? You knew Herring was not going to stop fighting. The ref would have to stop Herring from fighting. And that's what happened. You understood that Herring is a proud guy who has done a lot in the sport. You also understood that Stevenson had respect for that, and that was very important. And of course, Stevenson gave a shout out to his team. Stevenson even gave a shout out to a critic, Timothy Bradley, to let Bradley know, hey, keep coming with the criticism. I'm going to keep sharpening my skills. I hear you, right? I thought it was a masterful post-fight interview. I thought it was one of the better post-fight interviews I've seen. I thought it was necessary given the circumstance. Stevenson was that dominant. Now, Herring had some problems. Before I get into that, let's talk about betting for gamblers, my core constituency. I lost on this one. Understand, an over 10.5 rounds means over the midway point of the 11th round, not the 10th, right? It's 10 full rounds and half of the next round. Here, Stevenson and the referee closed the show in the 10th round. So I was out on both sides. I got greedy. I got a plus 700 on the Herring side of the play, and I said, okay, even though I think Stevenson's going to win this fight, I need to incorporate that into my betting portfolio. If I had to do it over again, I would have bought some rounds because an over-under of 10.5 is a little high. I congratulate Stevenson. Herring looked like he was going to make the 10.5. He was getting battered. He didn't have a chance to win the fight at that point. But he was courageously taking the punishment. Why? Because he is a pro, right? I congratulate Stevenson on the finish. Let's talk about the problems boxing-wise Herring had. Stevenson has ring coverage. In other words, Stevenson can be far away from you, throw that straight left, he's a southpaw, and have it land. Stevenson's accurate, right? Herring, by contrast, couldn't touch Stevenson when Stevenson was a few feet away from him. In other words, Stevenson understood that if I'm on the outskirts of the pocket, only I can land power shots. Herring, by contrast, too local. He needed Stevenson to come in the pocket, like Carl Frampton did, within range of Herring's uppercuts, right? Left hook. Stevenson wisely played a distance game, right? Also, Herring too upright. You're fighting a guy with blinding hand speed. You have got to find a way to get out of the way, right? A guy with blinding hand speed who comes in and starts popping you, you have to have a plan. Herring couldn't move away, right? He wasn't the guy who gets hit with a straight left and then intuitively moves out of the pocket, right? Herring's a warrior. He sees himself as the big puncher. So the problem was Herring couldn't move away. Herring couldn't lure Stevenson into the pocket, right? Herring also couldn't enter the pocket himself. He just couldn't get in. Folks, you're dealing with quick hands. You're dealing with accurate hands. You're dealing with combinations. Stevenson's a combination puncher. Herring, simply put, was just too slow to deal with this kind of explosive hand speed and accuracy, right? I thought, too, Stevenson did a great job of busting off combinations. Then you'll notice Stevenson take a step to the side. In other words, Stevenson made sure that even if this guy makes it through my combination, I'm not going to be standing there in front of him to get hit, right? So this was young speed, young accuracy, young combinations, right? Smart distancing against a vet who needed this to be a firefight. Add it all up and Stevenson wins by a landslide, right? Let's also be real for a moment. I was here online criticizing the scoring in Oscar Valdez's last fight. I thought Valdez lost that fight. I believe it was in Arizona, right? I thought he lost that fight. I thought he got a gift. In my opinion, there is no way that Oscar Valdez, who needs to get up on you, is going to be able to deal from distance with Shakur Stevenson's reach and hand speed, right? I just don't see it happening. Valdez has an excellent left hook. Folks, that left hook is going to land about as much as Herring's left hook landed in this fight. In other words, hardly at all. Right? If Stevenson looks at the film of Valdez's last fight, where the opponent was moving, right? Moving laterally, stopping and then throwing on Valdez, Stevenson will have an easy time of it. Now, look, I'm not going to fault any young fighter, for wanting to be unified. But what I want Stevenson to consider, and I believe eventually it's going to happen, is moving up, right? Fighting a Lomachenko. Now, I believe Loma would be one of his harder fights because Loma actually knows how to crash the pocket, right? Loma moves a lot better than Herring, right? But let's just say Stevenson, with this skill level, I don't believe he has a serious competitor at 130, right? So with all of this, right, let's just say Stevenson needs to be thinking about bigger fish than those found in the division. They'll still be there after he unifies the title. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of unifying the title. But let's just say Gervonta Davis was losing his last fight to Mario Barrios. Right now, Davis is a big puncher. Davis is excellent. Davis is naturally a little bit heavier than Shakur Stevenson. But what I want people to think about is the fact that Barrios is beating Davis. It's Floyd Mayweather in the crowd who has to say to his fighter, hey, player, time's running out. You know, hey, you got to take this to the rim. Right? So then later in that fight, Gervonta Davis, who's in a bit of a haze, wakes up and finishes Barrios. Well, what happens if he's in against a quick, accurate southpaw with ring coverage like Shakur Stevenson? Davis might never wake up. Stevenson might jump out to the kind of lead that he had in this fight. Right? If Davis wakes up, does he think that Stevenson is going to be standing right in front of him like Leo Santa Cruz was? So let's just say Stevenson's future is extremely bright. For me, it's a foregone conclusion that he beats Oscar Valdez. People are going to have to start to ask themselves, how do you get in the pocket against Shakur Stevenson? How do you get to Stevenson's body? When is the last time you saw a guy land at least 3 good shots on Stevenson's body? Right, folks? With this kind of hand speed, we might not find that out for several years. Right? Stevenson is just entering his prime. Right? He's just entering his prime. He hasn't been tested from deep in the pocket. Right? He needs room to operate, but he has young legs, young hand speed. Guys can't get in the pocket to test him. Right? So let's just say you're talking about a guy who could jump weight classes, who seems to me to be a foregone conclusion to unify the title in the weight class he is in. Right? Keep an eye on this fighter. You saw, well, let's just say, keep an eye on this fighter. Completely outclassed Jamel Herring here to get his title. Excellent performance, both in the post-fight interview. I can't emphasize that enough. Let's hope he keeps that tone, as well as in the fight. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Understand the problem opponents face. You don't run into a fighter this fast, that often. When you add in the fact that he's a southpaw and that straight left carries, oh my, you got big problems. That's how I see it. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section. Thanks for stopping by.